The Aurelian throne world filled the viewport like a wound carved into space. Obsidian continents gleamed beneath starfire, fractured by glowing fault lines where cities rose like blades driven into a living planet. Orbital bastions circled it in perfect symmetry, each armed, each watching. Ambassador Elias Ward stood alone on the bridge of the human diplomatic vessel and studied the formation in silence. No weapons charged. No escorts followed. That absence was deliberate. The docking bay swallowed the ship without ceremony. Karathi honor guards waited, towering, scaled figures clad in ceremonial armor that doubled as battlefield plating. Their crests flared as Ward stepped onto the polished black stone. None offered greeting. Their silence was meant to weigh on him, to remind him how far he stood from home. "Ambassador Elias Ward," one of them finally said, voice metallic and cold. "You will follow. You will speak only when commanded." Ward inclined his head slightly. "Understood." The corridors leading inward were vast enough to march armies through. Walls were etched with reliefs depicting conquered species kneeling, broken, or burning. Ward walked at a measured pace, eyes forward, committing details to memory, sensor placements hidden behind iconography, guard rotations disguised as ritual movement, the faint electromagnetic hum beneath the floor. The Karathi built their intimidation into architecture. Humans preferred it invisible. The grand tribunal hall opened before him like a chasm. Its ceiling vanished into shadow, pierced by vertical shafts of light that illuminated the central dais. Tier upon tier of balconies curved outward, packed with nobles, generals, and representatives of subject races. Some watched with open hunger. Others with dull resignation. At the far end rose the throne. King Zalvorath the Eternal reclined upon it, vast and immobile, his crown fused directly into his armored skull. Power radiated from him, carefully cultivated and constantly reinforced. When he moved, the hall fell utterly silent. "So," the king rumbled, his voice amplified by the chamber itself. "The humans send one." Ward stepped forward until the guards halted him with crossed halberds. He did not bow. He did not stiffen. He stood as if attending a meeting room rather than a place where species were erased. "I am authorized to speak for Earth," Ward said evenly. A ripple of derisive laughter rolled through the balconies. "One voice for an entire world," Zalvorath said. "How efficient! Or how desperate!" Ward met the king's gaze without challenge. "Efficiency has kept our species alive." The king leaned forward, interest flickering. "You mistake survival for relevance, human." A gesture from the throne activated the floor projection. Images bloomed into the air, human cities rendered in tactical overlays, population centers highlighted, orbital paths mapped with predatory precision. "Your species has expanded beyond its station," Zalvorath continued. "You exist because we have permitted it. That permission is now revoked unless you accept our terms." The hall echoed as the ultimatum was spoken. Disarmament. Tribute. Population levies. Permanent vassalage. Each clause struck like a hammer blow, delivered with the confidence of inevitability. "You will kneel," the king finished. "Or you will be reduced to history." Ward listened without interruption. He neither clenched his fists nor quickened his breath. When silence returned, he folded his hands behind his back. "These terms are comprehensive," he said. The word choice drew murmurs. Zalvorath's eyes narrowed. "You will answer." "I will," Ward replied. "But not yet." A hiss of outrage spread. The king rose fully from his throne, towering, furious. "You stand before annihilation and ask for time?" "I ask to consider," Ward said calmly. "Decisions affecting billions deserve thought." The king laughed, a booming, cruel sound. "You think this is negotiation? This is theater. And you are here to entertain us before you die." Ward's gaze drifted briefly across the balconies, taking in the eager faces, the nervous ones, the calculating stares. "Then allow me to perform properly." The king studied him, then reclined once more. "Very well. You will be granted 3 cycles. You will observe. You will reflect. And when you return, you will submit, publicly. If that is your will, Ward said. It is, Zalvorith replied. Enjoy our hospitality, human. Few do for long. As the guards escorted him away, the king raised his voice one last time. Know this, Elias Ward. Your species has already lost. The only question remaining is how loudly. Ward did not turn back. His expression remained composed as the great doors closed behind him, sealing the tribunal hall and its certainty of victory inside. Only when he was alone in the silent corridor did he allow himself a single, quiet breath. They believed power had to announce itself. That it required spectacle, fear, noise. They had built an empire around that belief, reinforced it with ritual, and never questioned it. Ward straightened his jacket and resumed walking, steps steady, mind already far ahead of the moment. They don't know it yet, he thought, but this is the last throne they will ever sit upon. The Kirathi called it hospitality. Ambassador Elias Ward called it a controlled descent into threat. His assigned residence overlooked the inner capital, an engineered abyss where towers clung to the planet's crust like talons. From the balcony, he could see patrol craft moving in disciplined arcs, their hulls etched with symbols of conquest. The air smelled faintly metallic, filtered but never clean. Every detail was intentional. Comfort was not the point. Awareness was. The door behind him slid open without announcement. Ambassador, said Overseer Kethrix, a slender Kirathi diplomat whose scales were polished to a mirror sheen. The Dominion honors you with a cultural exhibition. Ward turned, offering a polite nod. I'm listening. Kethrix gestured, and the walls ignited with holographic life. Images replaced stone, worlds burning, fleets breaking, cities collapsing under orbital fire. Alien figures knelt before Kirathi kings long dead. Each scene lingered just long enough to be understood. These are records, Kethrix said. Preserved so that history is instructive. Ward studied the projections with professional interest. How many of these civilizations resisted? All, Kethrix replied. Briefly. And how many still exist? The overseer hesitated, only a fraction of a second. That is not relevant. Ward smiled faintly. On the contrary. It tells me how the Dominion measures success. The projections faded. Kethrix's crest flared, irritation bleeding through composure. You humans misjudge your position. You believe silence is strength. No, Ward said. I believe observation is. Kethrix leaned closer. You have been granted time because our king enjoys certainty. Do not mistake that for mercy. I wouldn't, Ward said. Mercy requires restraint. The Kirathi's eyes hardened. He turned sharply and left, the door sealing behind him with finality. Ward returned his attention to the city. Beneath the spectacle, patterns emerged. Patrols overlapped inefficiently. Command signals rerouted through a single spire. Redundancy was ceremonial, not functional. The Dominion ruled through fear, not resilience. Later, he was escorted to a formal reception, an arena disguised as a hall. Delegates from subject species lined the perimeter, guarded and silent. At the center, Kirathi nobles feasted while watching. Ward took his place alone. A general approached, armor-scarred, eyes bright with contempt. You should have brought warriors, he said. Not words. Ward met his gaze. Words travel farther. The general laughed. Your fleets would shatter in our gravity wells. Perhaps, Ward replied. If fleets were our only tool. The laughter stopped. Across the hall, conversation slowed. Several nobles watched him closely now, curiosity edging out amusement. Ward could feel the shift, not dominance, but uncertainty. Predators sensed it before they understood it. A voice cut through the murmur. Ambassador Ward? King Zalvorith entered without warning, the room falling instantly silent. He approached Ward's table, looming massive, pleased. Are my subjects treating you well? The king asked. They are thorough, Ward said. Zalvorith grinned, a terrifying display of serrated authority. Good. I want you comfortable when you kneel. Ward folded his hands. May I ask a question, Your Majesty? The king waved a claw. Indulge me. How many kings ruled the Dominion before you? A ripple passed through the nobles. Zalvortha's smile thinned. Many. All strong. And how many died peacefully? Silence. Zalvorth straightened. You tread dangerously. I study history, Ward replied. It tells me something interesting. Your empire expands aggressively, yet fractures follow succession. Rebellions. Purges. Entire fleets turning on each other. The king's eyes burned. You suggest weakness. I suggest concentration, Ward said evenly. All power in one place is efficient. It is also fragile. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Zalvorth laughed. Loudly. Deliberately. You think killing me would end us? Ward held his gaze. I think killing you would stop everything. The king leaned close enough that Ward could smell the ozone of his armor. You humans imagine yourselves clever because you survived your own wars. You forget, we are war. And yet, Ward said softly, you still need an audience. The laughter that followed was harsher, more forced. Zalvorth turned away, dismissing him with a flick of his claw. Enjoy your remaining time, the king said. Soon, the galaxy will watch you submit. That night, alone again, Ward activated the secure implant behind his ear. The connection was narrow, shielded, nearly invisible, human design at its best. Status, a voice whispered. Confirmed, Ward replied. Empire is centralized. Succession instability high. Target dependency absolute. A pause. Then, authorization? Ward looked once more at the city, at the towers built on fear, at an empire balanced on one throne. Yes, he said. Proceed. The connection closed. Ward exhaled slowly. The Karathi believed dominance was declared through noise and cruelty. They spoke only one language, and they assumed everyone else did too. They had never learned the human one. Silence. And what it preceded. The final audience was announced as a celebration. Trumpets, deep, resonant, animal, echoed through the capital as the grand tribunal hall filled beyond capacity. Nobles crowded the balconies. Generals stood in ceremonial ranks. Representatives of conquered species were forced into the lowest tiers, positioned so they could witness what obedience looked like. Above it all, the throne waited, elevated, dominant, unquestioned. Ambassador Elias Ward entered alone. He wore the same dark suit, unadorned, unarmored, hands empty and visible. Karathi scanners swept him repeatedly as he walked, their operators growing increasingly annoyed at the same result. No weapons. No explosives. No concealed blades. Only a human heart beating at a steady, unremarkable rhythm. King Zalvorth rose as Ward reached the center of the hall. Behold, the king boomed, spreading his claws wide. The moment history records humanity's wisdom. Laughter thundered through the chamber. Ward inclined his head. Your Majesty, you have considered our generosity, Zalvorth said. You have seen the cost of defiance. Speak. Ward took a single step forward. The guards stiffened but did not intervene. Humanity accepts responsibility for its survival, Ward said. We acknowledge the imbalance of power between our peoples. The murmurs turned eager. We are prepared, Ward continued, to accept limited terms of compliance. The hall erupted. Nobles howled approval. Even the subject delegates flinched, some in relief, others in despair. Zalvorth lifted his claws, demanding silence. Wise, the king said. You learn quickly for prey. Ward's eyes never left him. There is one condition. The king's crest flared. You dare attach conditions? Not to alter your terms, Ward said. Only to honor them. Zalvorth leaned forward. Explain. In human tradition, Ward said calmly, submission is formalized through proximity. A gesture of trust. A moment where both parties stand unguarded. The king studied him, suspicion flickering briefly before being smothered by arrogance. You wish to stand closer so the galaxy can see your fear. So they can see your authority, Ward corrected. Laughter again. The king descended from his throne, each step deliberate, savoring the moment. His guards followed, then halted at his raised claw. I will grant you this, Zalvoreth said. Come. Kneel where all can see. Ward walked forward. The distance closed to 3 meters. 2. 1. He stopped. I request a final courtesy, Ward said. Zalvoreth loomed over him. You are not in a position to request anything. Silence, Ward said softly. The word cut through the hall, unexpected, misplaced. Confusion rippled outward. For one breath, Ward continued, voice steady. Let history listen. The king froze, stunned by the audacity. Then he smiled, a slow, cruel curl of his mouth. Very well, Zalvoreth said. Let them listen. The hall fell silent. In that instant, Ward stepped forward and placed his hand lightly against the king's armored chest. There was no flash. No sound. No visible strike. The device embedded beneath Ward's skin activated at proximity, keyed to the king's unique bioelectric signature. It released a focused disruption pulse, precise, narrow, lethal only to complex neural clusters. The technology had no external emission, no detectable energy spike. It did not burn. It did not tear. It simply stopped thought. King Zalvoreth's eyes widened. His massive frame locked, then shuddered once. The crown fused to his skull dimmed. The throne room waited for a roar that never came. He collapsed. The impact echoed like a dropped monument. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then chaos tried to be born, and failed. Guards stared at their fallen god. Nobles recoiled. Commanders shouted conflicting orders that went nowhere. Every system designed to respond to spectacle found nothing to fight. Ward stepped back, hands already away, posture unchanged. He is dead, someone whispered. Ward raised his voice, not loud, but impossible to ignore. The king has been removed, he said. No weapon has been deployed against your people. No fleet has been engaged. This is not war. A general surged forward, claws raised. He froze mid-step as targeting arrays failed to lock, their command hierarchy suddenly empty. Ward met his gaze. Stand down. The general hesitated. Looked at the throne. Looked at the balconies. Looked at the silent systems. And stepped back. Ward turned slowly, addressing the hall. You built an empire around one voice, he said. You mistook fear for stability. You demanded submission to avoid war. He gestured to the body. This is the alternative. A noble shouted. You will be hunted. Ward nodded once. If you can decide who commands that hunt. Silence answered him. Ward clasped his hands behind his back. No, he said, calm as ever. We may negotiate. No one stopped him as he turned and walked away from the throne that no longer ruled anything at all. The Kirathi Dominion did not collapse in fire. It unraveled in hesitation. Across the throne world, command nodes waited for orders that never came. Fleets held formation at the edge of engagement ranges, their captains staring at silent channels where the king's authority had once flowed without interruption. Ritual protocols conflicted. Emergency succession laws contradicted each other. Every system designed to project certainty now demanded confirmation from a ruler who no longer existed. Ambassador Elias Ward watched the confusion from a secure chamber overlooking the capital. He stood with his hands behind his back, posture relaxed, as alarms echoed faintly through distant corridors. No guards flanked him. None had been assigned. No one had agreed on who possessed the right. A Kirathi officer finally entered, armor dulled, crest lowered, eyes no longer certain. You will be detained, the officer said, though the words lacked conviction. Ward turned calmly. By whose authority? The officer hesitated. Exactly, Ward replied. The officer left without another word. Minutes later, a transmission request arrived, unfiltered, unsecured, desperate. Ward accepted. A council chamber filled the projection. High nobles, fleet marshals, economic overseers. None sat on a throne. "You killed our king," one of them said. Ward nodded. "Yes. You violated every law of parley. You violated every law of survival," Ward answered. I responded proportionally. A general leaned forward. "Our fleets are prepared to strike Earth." Ward met his gaze. "They were prepared yesterday, too. Why haven't they?" Silence. Another voice spoke, quieter. "Our command lattice requires sovereign authorization." Ward inclined his head slightly. "Which no longer exists." The realization spread through the chamber like cold water. "We can still fight," the general insisted, though doubt bled through his tone. "You can't," Ward agreed. "And humanity will respond. Not symbolically. Not ceremonially. Practically." A noble snarled. "You threaten us now?" "No," Ward said. "I explain outcomes." He gestured, and a controlled data release filled the projection, brief, precise. Human fleet positioning. Supply interdiction models. Economic choke simulations. Not overwhelming. Enough. "We do not conquer," Ward continued. "Occupation breeds resistance. We end threats so they cannot reform." A fleet marshal swallowed. "You planned this long before you arrived?" "Yes." "Then why not annihilate us?" Ward's expression softened, just slightly. "Because the galaxy is watching. And because empires that fall quietly leave fewer ghosts." The council exchanged looks. Fear was giving way to calculation. "What do you want?" a noble asked. Ward folded his hands. "Recognition of sovereignty. Withdrawal from human-adjacent systems. Dissolution of tribute claims. And a formal declaration that the Dominion will not pursue expansion through coercion." "That would end our rule," someone whispered. Ward shook his head. "It will redefine it. You may govern yourselves. You will not own others." The transmission ended without agreement, but it did not end with defiance. Across the stars, sensors picked up the shift. Karathi fleets powered down weapons arrays. Subject worlds halted evacuation protocols. Rival empires cancelled war councils and convened analysts instead. The story spreading through diplomatic channels was concise and terrifying. Humanity had not arrived with armadas. Humanity had removed a king. Within hours, Earth received confirmation: hostile posture withdrawn. The message carried no celebration, only acknowledgement. Ward stood alone as his return vessel prepared for departure. A final delegation arrived, less ornate, more careful. "We accept," their speaker said. "Under protest." Ward nodded. "Protest is permitted." As the ship lifted from the throne world, Ward looked back once. The spires still gleamed. The planet still turned. But something fundamental had shifted. Power no longer sat at the center demanding attention. It scattered, uncertain, cautious. Elsewhere, ambassadors recalibrated their language. Military doctrines were quietly rewritten. Threat assessments replaced bluster. Humanity's name moved from lists marked prey or rival to a category that required its own heading. Ward arrived on Earth without ceremony. No crowds. No speeches. Just a debriefing room and familiar gravity. "You ended a war without firing a shot," one official said. Ward removed his jacket, folding it neatly. "Wars end when one side understands it cannot win. And if they hadn't?" Ward paused. "Then it would have been louder." He left the room and stepped into the open air. The sky was clear. Ordinary. Fragile in ways the galaxy never seemed to notice. Far away, an empire learned to breathe without a throne. Closer to home, humanity returned to its work, quiet, patient, unafraid. The galaxy would remember the moment power stopped shouting. And listened.